It was a Dodger-filled weekend with DodgerFest, Mookie Betts bowling event, and Chris Taylor's Polar Plunge. We'll get into all of that. We'll get into what was said at FanFest, Nick Frasso's injury, Mookie Betts' comment, and Shohei Ohtani realizing that he's a Dodger. We're going to get into all that, so let's get Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more with new customers getting $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. This is a daily podcast covering the Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. And if you want to become an everydayer, all you have to do is listen or watch every day, which can be made easier by subscribing and getting notified anytime our episodes are ready for you to go. If this is your first time listening or watching, welcome. I'm Vince Samperio, joined by my co-host, Jeff Snyder. Jeff and I are both lifelong Dodger fans that have spent time covering the team, currently covering the team, and doing this podcast here every Monday through Friday for almost 5 years now. So we're here to bring you the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. And we're here to do that again. Jeff, we saw the Dodgers a little bit throughout the week for their Dodgers Love Community tour. But then we got a whole lot of Dodger content over this weekend with DodgerFest, Mookie Betts bowling event, and Chris Taylor's Polar Plunge. And it just got me that much more excited. I'm sure you as well got me that much more excited for this season to get going.
Yeah, I think I can still say I'm not quite an insider. I'm not sure if you can, mister. I'm going to go to all the Dodgers events. So perks of the day job for you that, we're not insiders because of Locked On Dodgers, but, I think you're getting closer and closer to insider status. You were at everything this weekend, right?
Yeah, I was luckily enough able to be at DodgerFest, able to be at Mookie's event, able to be at Chris Taylor's event, got to talk to a lot of the players, whether it was individual or part of a scrum. And I put this out on Twitter, and it was just one of those things where, like, this team, I don't know if it's also because I have renewed energy as like a Dodger fan and as someone covering the Dodgers, or if just in general. I felt like this year where there was, everybody was in a good mood. Not that they weren't in the past, but like good mood, good answers, and like not a lot of short answers from a lot of guys. And I talked to some guys at DodgerFest and at Mookie's event that night, and then the next morning, like in the span of 15 hours, some of these guys I talked to 3 different times, and they were willing to oblige me every time. So I appreciate all the events that went on, and it was kind of fun to be there. And yeah, I think it's a good sign for the season coming up that at least for us, I'm getting me having some FaceTime with these guys, and hopefully that leads to fruitful things for the podcast as well.
Yeah, it's you have to figure, I know Shohei Ohtani has the same profession as these guys, but he's kind of a superstar to them too. Like I think they're probably a little starstruck too. And there's got to be that level of excitement, as excited as we are as fans. We talked to Evan Phillips about it on the show, how excited they are to be teammates with Ohtani and Yamamoto, and and just what the team has done, and everything about it, between the star power and just, hey, we took a 100-win team and made it a lot better. There's going to be excitement around the team, and I think you probably got to see that like guys were just, hey, DodgerFest, this is our chance to be around the fans and to be back at Dodger Stadium, and they were probably as excited as the fans were.
Yeah, a lot of questions about that. A lot of questions about being the villains of baseball. A lot of different narratives from over the weekend, but they all took it in stride. They all had good answers. I know some of them had to answer more questions about Ohtani specifically than themselves. But all in all, a good time, a lot of smiles. It seemed like a good bonding time for the Dodgers as well. Not the whole team was there, but a very good amount of the team was there, and most of them went to all 3 events, which is, after having DodgerFest, where that's a long day for some of them. Then Mookie's event at night, and then Taylor, you got to go jump in. It was only 58 degrees, not terrible, but got to go jump in some cold water to start your morning. It was a long weekend, but we did get some news out of it, which we'll touch on right now. But yeah, it was good.
Southern California beaches are cold even during the summer. So
Oh yeah.
in
That
February,
water,
it's 58 degrees is plenty cold when it's water. So
yeah, that water is probably 58 degrees year round. It just depends if it's how hot it is outside. But
yeah, for sure. And I think it was smart of them to do all the three of these things in the same weekend, because if you got Max Muncy saying I'm going to fly to LA from Texas, do it in one shot, and it's almost easier to just do all three than to I'm going to go to DodgerFest and then I'm going to fly home instead of supporting Mookie and CT3. It just makes sense to just do all of them.
yeah, and usually the time between DodgerFest and when they leave for spring training is more spread out. They're leaving this week, so I'm sure a lot of the guys are staying here now, and it was a good weekend for them. The big news we got from the team specifically over the weekend at DodgerFest was Nick Frasso. He is out for the 2024 season. He got surgery that we hadn't heard of until Saturday, and not necessarily a huge loss for, well, we don't know, but potentially not a huge loss for the Dodgers in 2024, but definitely takes a trade chip out and a potential bullpen piece or rotation piece if there are injuries. It does open up another 40-man spot when it gets to there, but yeah, Jeff, what do you think about Frasso?
Yeah, it's a bummer for him for sure. And, we had talked about how he was kind of a dark horse to get some time in the bullpen. I think they have enough other guys who kind of fit that same profile that, like you said, not necessarily a huge loss for the Dodgers in 2024, but Frosso's going to miss his entire age 25 season with shoulder surgery. Shoulder surgery is a scary thing anyway for a pitcher. It's not quite to the point that like Tommy John surgery is at, where you can just almost guarantee a full recovery. And so, I'm sure it's scary for him, hard for him. The Dodgers did add him to their 40-man roster even after they knew about the injury, which in a lot of ways makes sense, because it's even easier to take an injured guy in the Rule 5 draft, knowing that as long as I got room for him on my 40-man roster until spring training starts, then I can just put him on the injured list. He'll spend the whole season on the injured list, and we don't actually have to play a guy who's not ready for the big leagues. So it makes sense that they had to protect him still. Hopefully he'll bounce back. I do think this kind of increases even more. We've talked about him as a guy who's likely to end up a reliever anyway. I think this probably makes that even more likely.
Yeah, he seemed in good spirits. Obviously, it's been a while since he got surgery. But a tough break for a young player more so than specifically for the Dodgers. And we'll see what happens. But, guys have come back from shoulders before. Well, I'm sure, Frasso will work his way back. And, it sucks that he has to lose the season. But for the Dodgers, they trek on. And I don't think this does anything in terms of upping their need for like a reliever. We talked about Devin Williams last week. I don't think this changes anything in that regard. But it could potentially, if they think, here's one potential arm we might not have. And, let's go get a potential arm to add to it. So.
Yeah. And, speaking of arms that they might add, they did add one arm this weekend. I guess we found out about this weekend. I don't know if they just signed him this weekend. Anyway, Dinelson Lamet, former Padre, and apparently former Rocky and Red Sox, who I have vague memories of him pitching for the Rockies after the Padres. But
I don't remember Red Sox.
Yeah, maybe it was just 2 innings last year, 1 game, 2 innings. So he looked like a future star in 2020 after the Dodgers swept the Padres in the NLDS. Padre fans go to excuse as well. Dinelson Lamet and whoever that other dude, the dude with the hair who can't stand still when he's going into the stretch position. I can't remember his name. Mike Clevenger. Well, they were hurt. Otherwise, we would have won. And, sure thing. But Lamet did look like a budding superstar, but he got hurt at the end of that season, and he's never really been the same. He had a 2.09 ERA that year in 2020, the shortened season. He made 12 starts, so basically pitched the entire season, was just hurt for the postseason, finished 4th in the Cy Young voting. Since then, he has an ERA of 6.81 in 107 innings over the last 3 seasons. So he's definitely a project. He still has decent strikeout numbers. Terrible walk numbers since the injury. And so maybe the Dodgers see something. If he's still striking out a decent number of guys, maybe he still does have decent stuff, and they're more, they're thinking that it is. And to be fair, strikeouts rate isn't as high as it was when he was at his peak, but Dodgers might see something that they could fix. Chances are we're not going to say his name again this year, but he is a guy who they signed and invited to spring training. So,
maybe in late September, we're going to get Nabil Crismat and then Nelson Lamet against the Padres in that late September series, just for fun.
I'm trying so hard to be excited about Nabil Crismat, but man,
just they are both minor league deals. So again, they might be the anchors of the OKC team. So
yeah,
there is more stuff that came from DodgerFest. Mookie Betts made a comment that I believe is getting some weird reactions online, and then Shohei Ohtani reflects on him being a Dodger. So let's keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more with FanDuel. And it is Super Bowl week. And happy Super Bowl week to all who celebrate. This is from FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And, Super Bowl Sunday is about food and family and friends and commercials and halftime shows and all that. But it's also about making some bets. And, there's prop bets on the Super Bowl. There's bets who will win, how many points will be scored, who will score a touchdown. There's so much to get into. And with FanDuel, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. All you got to do is place a $5 bet. If that bet wins, you get an extra $200 to play around with and make more bets, which you can do to create parlays for the game, same game parlays. You can create parlays outside of the game. You can create different types of bets. I'm sure there'll be a lot of prop bets. What color Gatorade is usually a popular one, heads or tails, over under on the national anthem, over under on other things going on. So go check it all out. It's on the FanDuel app. And remember, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to find us wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Make sure to become an everydayer by listening or watching every day. And remember, you can go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. If you were in that group over the weekend, I would imagine you enjoyed some exclusive looks at what went on over the weekend. And, that'll continue on as the year goes on. You also get reactions, thoughts, we'll answer your questions, whatever you got for us. You can do that at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. And let's get into some comments from Mookie Betts. He didn't make it on the big stage in front of Dodger fans. He didn't make it in front of the media, but he made it when he was at the Sportsnet desk at DodgerFest. And he talked about how he got a lot of questions about the Dodgers being villains and everything else. And, he had already said on another podcast or radio show recently about how, what do you want the Dodgers to do? What do you expect them to do? And, he talked about it with the media. The Dodgers made him that promise when they signed him to the big deal about going after and remaining competitive and everything else. And he said the Dodgers did that. And then on the Sports LA broadcast, he mentioned about how every game, the quote that was taken out of it was, every game is going to be the other team's World Series. And for me, I haven't been on social media other than posting a lot of the weekend, but what I did see from the reaction to that quote had me surprised, because I don't think he said anything that's, not out of the ordinary.
Yeah, it's not controversial. It's clearly true. It was true. Like, if you've ever chanted "Beat LA" and you're not a San Francisco Giants or Boston Celtics fan, you are already proving Mookie Betts right. And that was before the Dodgers went out and signed the best free agents and traded for the best guys and everything this offseason. The fact is, I mean, you look at what the Padres did last year, putting Clayton Kershaw's picture up on their Jumbotron after they won a single game, and how that turned out for the Padres. Like, that was their World Series. And this has been true for years of the Dodgers, and it's just going to be more true now. And it's not even like Mookie was saying, we're the best and they should be treating it like their World Series. It's just an observation. They're going to, and it's logical. The Dodgers did sign Shohei Ohtani and Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Teoscar Hernandez and trade for Tyler Gosnow. And, they did these things. They put a target on their backs. And if anything, that's what Mookie was acknowledging, that the target on our backs is even bigger now, and not in a cocky, we're so good way. It was we got to be ready for that, because every team is going to play us their hardest. Every single series is going to be the other team's World Series. So we have to come out and be ready every single series. I don't know. I can't even figure out what was supposed to be controversial about it.
Yeah, I was trying to find the other side, and I guess the quote, just out of, like, if you're on Twitter and you just see the quote, you don't watch the video, and I don't even know if the video that's been online has in like the greater conversation of it all. But even if I just saw the quote, like, oh, every game against us will be the other team's World Series. If you are a fan of the Dodgers, you've been around the Dodgers, if you're on the Dodgers, I'm sure you saw all offseason about Dodgers ruin baseball, Dodgers are ruining baseball, Dodgers are a super team. What's the point of playing the season? Blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, that is the narrative out there, that the Dodgers are the team to beat. The Dodgers are the villain. The Dodgers are whatever, whatever the case. So I think maybe because for me, the what's weird about it, or not weird about it, but what's different is that baseball is such a long season. You play every team 2 times, 2 series. Like it's in football, you can say, when the Patriots had their dynasty, or now when the Chiefs have theirs, and someone beats them in the regular season, and if they celebrate, a little bit excessively, yeah, that was a big game for them. That's a big game to win. For the Dodgers, it's a little bit different because the season is so long, and not every game has such heightened expectations and stuff like that. But other than that, yeah, like I don't know if for players specifically, I don't know. There may be extra incentive, like, oh, I want to beat the Dodgers, or oh, the big bad Dodgers. Even then, in the regular season, it's not going to matter if you beat them in October. Obviously, that's different. But for fans, fans are going to get, people online are going to get mad at this quote and this comment and this thought from Mookie. But then when their team beats the Dodgers, they're going to say, oh my God, we beat the Dodgers. They're so, I thought they were so good, blah, blah, blah. And, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah, and we've seen criticism of Dodger fans from other fans over the last few years, like, oh, Dodger fans don't have the passions that we have. You look at, our stadium is loud and Dodger Stadium is just quiet and boring. That's because when the Dodgers come to your stadium, you get to play your World Series. And when you come to our stadium, it's one of 27 series that we'll be playing that year. Like the reason that your fans are more excited is because our team showed up there, and our fans get to see our team 81 games a year. And so, yeah, you know what? There is going to be more excitement. And obviously, there's also way more Dodger fans than you'd like to admit to in your stadium. But the fact that your fans are more fired up when the Dodgers come to town, that's what Mookie's talking about. And like you said, Vince, you can't have it both ways. Everything these fans do acknowledges and supports that what Mookie said is true, but they also want to be mad about him. It's like, well, of course it's true, but you shouldn't say it out loud. You know what?
And it's it's the other age-old question we've seen of baseball players have no personality, and then a baseball player says something, and then it's like, oh, why would you say that? The other part of it too that been funny to me is a lot of outlets kind of ran with it, is like, oh, or whatever, social media and stuff is like, oh, Mookie's giving other teams bulletin board material, and what team is going to get fired up because Mookie Betts said, oh, this is your World Series? Padre fans, Padre players, if they got you guys are the ones that made that series more than what it was in the past. You guys are what made an April series last year more than what it was. It wasn't the Dodgers, it was the Padres kind of bringing that mojo. It was the D-backs, kind of bringing that mojo in the past years. The Giants, it's always kind of there, but other teams are bringing that mojo. It's never the Dodgers that are kind of bringing that. So
and when you think about actual billboard material in the history of sports, David Cohn in 1988, Pedro Martinez's daddy comments about the Yankees. When did those happen? In the postseason. So if you're talking about bulletin board material for the next 162 games, you're still proving his point. The other thing I don't understand is why Dodger fans are upset about. Like it's I guess it's just afraid of with Dave Roberts guaranteeing the World Series title a couple of years ago, all that stuff. I hope people know that the things that people say don't actually change what happens on the baseball field. And it's even worse when they get mad at fans for saying, don't say that, you're going to jinx us. Okay, that doesn't exist. But yeah, I mean, Mookie acknowledging the obviously true fact here doesn't change anything, doesn't put any more pressure on the Dodgers. The pressure comes from the truthfulness of what he said, that every team is going to be coming for him hard. And I'm personally glad that he and the other leaders of the team recognize we got to show up every single day because teams want to take us down.
Yeah. So, all right. If you have thoughts on this and have a valid argument of why Mookie Betts comments wrong, I'd love to hear that, just because, like I said, I can't understand it at the moment, but I could be maybe not convinced fully, but I'd
love to hear the other side for sure.
Yeah, I can be open-minded. All right. Shohei Ohtani was at DodgerFest. It was quite a show. No pun intended. And he also had some comments about, realizing he is a Dodger now. So we'll get into that. So let's keep it locked on Dodgers. We want to thank you for being an everydayer. If you are an everydayer, if you're not, all you have to do is start listening or watching every day. We're getting into season mode, so there's no reason for you not to spend 30 minutes with us every Monday through Friday. And if you're already on YouTube, you can go to Locked On Sports Today or Locked On Sports Los Angeles. They are 24/7 streaming channels going on about the news and stories from around the sports world and the LA sports world, from Locked On hosts, Locked On experts, and others. So make sure to subscribe and tap into those. They're running 24/7, and you'll probably see us on, for sure, Locked On Sports LA, maybe Locked On Sports Today sometime. So, all right, Jeff. Shohei Ohtani was at DodgerFest, which was for me not maybe not a surprise, but a little bit of a surprise. Usually, DodgerFest, they get a couple of the big players, and Ohtani. From what we've seen with Ohtani, he's a little bit more of a private guy. So this is a big event for Dodger fans and everyone else, and the Dodgers got him out there. He was followed by an entourage of people the entire day, just kind of making sure everything stayed right. He put some pictures on Twitter if you want to check him out. He had one of the biggest scrums I've seen. Well, the biggest scrum I've ever seen at Dodger Fan Fest. And I've seen bigger scrums before, but only from Shohei Ohtani at other events like World Baseball Classic and All-Star Game. So he definitely commands a crowd, commands attention. It was, just it's a different thing. Mookie Betts, one of the most popular players in baseball in the world, Freddie Freeman as well, and nowhere near the love that Ohtani got. But he did kind of reflect a little bit on what it meant to be a Dodger, or when he realized he was a Dodger, and when he was talking to the media. And Jeff, I believe you have the quote.
Yeah, this tweet is from Dodger Insider. He says, Shohei Ohtani was asked at Dodger Fest, when did it hit him that he was a Los Angeles Dodger? Seeing the fans in the stands for the first time, he said, actually, right now. And I mean, Shohei's been a part of big things, including big things at Dodger Stadium. The All-Star game in whatever year that was, 2022. Mm-hmm. But the All-Star game is always going to be a big deal, and he wasn't a Dodger. But to show up and see 30,000 fans in the stadium on February 3rd, when the entire state is about to, be overrun with flooding from rain, it was a crazy time in Southern California this weekend. Only going to get crazier. All of you, please stay safe out there. But it's February 3rd, and there's 30,000 people there, and they had to turn people away. They had to stop selling tickets. You sell out Fan Fest, it's ridiculous. And so, yeah, I think that was for him. He knows he's Shohei Ohtani. He knows he's a superstar, and he knows the Dodger fans are going to be crazy excited. But to see it in person the first time, be wearing a Dodger jersey and seeing Dodger fans freaking out, yeah, I mean, it'll hit you.
Yeah, the amount of Ohtani jerseys I saw I wasn't in the general fan vicinity very much, but the time I saw a lot of Ohtani jerseys. I saw pictures from the team store, a lot of Ohtani gear. And like I said, Mookie, huge star. Kershaw, huge star. Freeman, huge star. The Dodgers have had huge stars in the past. I've never seen anything like this, and the season hasn't even started. So it's definitely, different air, different type of beast when it comes to, who he is and what he represents. And, bringing a little bit of a different dynamic to Dodger Stadium, not just in the Japanese community, but even in general baseball community. Like if you're not a Dodger fan, but you live in LA or LA area or anywhere close to LA, and you're a young kid, every young kid knows who Ohtani is. And, a lot of those young kids are the Ohtani of their little league team where, they play, they hit very well. They're the best hitter on the team and best pitcher on the team. And, they can relate to that. I think it's just going to bring a lot of different personalities and people to Dodger Stadium this year. And, for him to kind of sit back and realize it and be a part of the weekend with Dodger fans, it was really cool to see. And just, the love from Dodger fans. Obviously, he's going to feel that love the entire season, assuming he does well. But it was just, a good way to start off. Like, hey, you know what? It's February. The season doesn't even start for another 7-8 weeks in terms of playing at Dodger Stadium. And, there's 35,000 people here, 30,000 people here that paid to be here. So pretty cool.
Yeah, you mentioned all the other superstars on the Dodgers. I like this quote from Fabian Ardaya, or the quote is from Mookie Betts, reported by Fabian Ardaya. Mookie said, "Nobody's going to get the welcome that Shohei Ohtani is about to get, so there's no sense in me trying to explain to him what he's about to get. I think I'm going to be giving him an ovation just like everybody else is." And, that's what's going on here. It's, the fans are crazy excited for Shohei Ohtani. The Dodger players are crazy excited. And, you remember in December when the Dodgers signed Ohtani, and we said just Ohtani isn't a complete offseason. And that's, for me, the big thing is that they then added on, Yamamoto and Glasnow and Teoscar and Paxton and, everything else. Like they went all in, and it's impossible not to be excited as a Dodger fan after what they did, because they weren't a bad team last year. And they just went out and just went all in, and I love it.
Yeah, and again, we're going to see a lot of this. I can imagine spring training this year is going to be a lot. It's already one of the more popular packed places in Arizona among all the teams. Obviously, them being close to there helps out, but I can imagine it's going to be even more so this year. We've seen already ticket prices. We touched on it before, like, okay, concessions might go up, and I think I saw some tweets about concessions being a little bit higher than last year, but that's kind of normal. But ticket prices, the Dodgers went to that dynamic ticket pricing a few years ago in terms of bigger games cost more, and we saw it with the Ohtani when they released tickets to the not general public, but there was a couple pre-sales before that. And Ohtani bobblehead days were the most expensive days by far. Like it was very, very much so. And, I'm assuming that they are sold out or close to sold out. And yeah, it's just going to be an interesting, to see everything play out at Dodger Stadium, but exciting as fans. Like as much as, potentially you could go to fewer games in years past, just, depending on finances and everything else. And, it might be a little more crowded when you go to games or whatever the case is. It's hard to get too upset about that when you realize the product the Dodgers are going to have on the field.
Yeah, for sure. And there was also some actual Shohei Ohtani news this weekend. He's a hitter and a pitcher. He won't be pitching this year, but there's still pitching news because he is recovering from, Dave Roberts referred to it as Tommy John surgery at DodgerFest. It has famously not been referred to as Tommy John surgery by Shohei Ohtani. But whatever surgery it was, he's recovering from that. And this also from Fabian Ardaya says, Brandon Gomes said Ohtani will be somewhat limited to start spring training. He's still expected to be ready for opening day. How the Dodgers approaches throwing rehab in season remains to be determined. And then Fabian followed up. Shohei Ohtani said he will start a throwing progression during spring training. He's right on schedule with his hitting progression, according to his interpreter, Ippie. So Ohtani is expected to be, and somewhere else I saw Ohtani actually said he expects to be the Dodgers DH in the 2 games in Korea. So he expects to be ready by then. What his spring looks like, we don't really know at this point, but he expects to be the DH in Korea. And he expects to start throwing the ball during spring training, which would presumably, that gives him a full year of recovery to be ready by next spring training to be a pitcher it's hard to see them trying to rush anything. Even with Dave Roberts saying there's a chance that if Ohtani's throwing progressions in the right place, you could play some outfield later in the season. It's hard to see that unless there's a lot of injuries. And even then, maybe not. But, knowing that Ohtani is on track to pitch in 2025 and to hit for 162 games in 2024, that's good news.
Yeah, great news. And, for Ohtani too, the thing that went viral over the weekend was his scar on his elbow, which was pretty not nasty, but it's different. It's pretty deep. I know that our buddies over at Dodger Blue had a photo, and some other people had photos of it. So if you want to go check that out, it was a pretty big scar. But yeah, for Ohtani, what matters for the Dodgers this year is that he can hit. He expects to be ready to hit by Korea, which is great. And that he takes the full year he doesn't have to worry about throwing at all this year. It would be maybe a worse or best case scenario on the Dodger side if Ohtani is playing some outfield by the end of the year.
Yeah. I just don't see it. I think, especially since they signed Teoscar Hernandez, there's really no need now.
Yeah. All right, Jeff, you got anything else before we head out?
No. Congratulations on a good weekend for you, professionally and personally. And like I said before, everybody down there, stay safe. I'm up in Utah. I am not affected. We're getting rain here, but nothing like you guys are getting and are expected to get. And so please be smart. Please evacuate if you're told to evacuate. And, we got Dodger baseball coming up soon, and we want all of our fans and Dodger fans to be around for the season. So be smart and be safe.
Yeah, hopefully it's been raining. We got through Taylor's event, and then it started raining shortly after that, so that was cool. There's going to be a lot of interviews from over the weekend coming through on our YouTube this next day or so. I got nothing else to do. I guess I got to stay home, so I'll start editing all these all up and get them up there for you. So we appreciate you guys. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. We'll talk a little bit more about what some guys said once we go through all these interviews throughout the week. We'll put those interviews up. We'll talk about anything else that comes up with the Dodgers, and they're heading out this week to Arizona, so that's exciting. So make sure to get excited with us by listening or watching every day, coming in every day. You can find us where you find podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. You can go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. You can text directly with us and get things from different events and Dodger games throughout the season. You can also go to Locked On Sports Today or Locked On Sports Los Angeles on YouTube, 24/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network with all the news and updates from around the sports world and the LA sports world. We are on social media, Twitter and Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Jeff is on Twitter at SnyDog. I'm at VinceSense91. You can DM either of us on those accounts if you want to get a hold of us. You can also get a hold of us via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or via voicemail text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car, if you're at home, tell your smart device, play podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.